Hello, welcome to the Lone Show. I'm your host, John Maylone. In this episode, no regulars, because reasons, as always. As for our guest, he's from Richmond, Virginia, and he is an online fiddle instructor. And possibly more, but we'll get into that. Ladies and gentlemen, I'll give you Mike Ferry.
Well, hello. Thank you so much for having me. This is a great thrill. We're gonna have a lot of fun.
Absolutely. So, how's life?
Life's pretty good. We're entering the autumn season here. I live in the southeastern United States, and when the leaves change, it's absolutely gorgeous. So I'm looking forward to that.
Fabulous. Is there anything you're working on or up to recently?
Well, as you mentioned, I'm an online fiddle instructor, and I've recently rolled out a podcast called the Fiddle and Mike Ferry podcast, and just really excited about connecting with people who are interested in the effects of playing a musical instrument on their health, specifically their mental health, and also just trying to help beginning, returning, and intermediate violin and fiddle players just get to the point where they feel a lot more confident and they're having a lot more fun with the instrument. So I'm not sure if that's a nutshell or not, but that's kind of what I'm working on these days.
Very nice, very nice. What inspired you to play the fiddle?
Well, so I actually started playing classical violin when I was 4 years old. I started with the Suzuki method, which is a very common method of learning classical violin and other classical instruments as well. And there was a picture in our local newspaper of a bunch of kids playing the violin, and it looked like they were having fun, and I wanted to give it a shot. So my mom signed me up for it, and that was how it all began. But as time went by, I really enjoyed getting involved in other genres. My family's from Ireland, so I was always interested in Irish music, and I grew up in the southeastern United States. So Appalachian, old-time fiddle music was always interesting to me. I've played in a number of different bands over the years, pop rock, alternative country, etc. And the violin, it's such a versatile instrument. There's so many great sounds you can get with it. And it's just a blessing that I've been able to take it in as many different directions as I have.
How long have you been playing the fiddle for?
Well, so I started with classical violin when I was 4, and as I mentioned, I went to all those other different directions as time's gone by, and I'm 46 now, so I've been at it for 42 years or so.
Wow, that's a very long time.
Yeah, it sure is. And
Yeah.
I have to say, it hasn't always been a bed of roses. I mean, when I was a kid, I did not enjoy practicing. I hate to admit it now, but if I had a lesson on a Thursday, for example, I would wait until Wednesday night at the very last second to practice, even maybe for 15 or 20 minutes, just so I could go in with a little bit of practice under my belt. But now I wish I just had more time for it. I'm a dad. My wife and I have 5 kids. I'm also, in addition to teaching online fiddle for adults, I'm also a middle school history teacher. So my days are very busy. And I wish I could practice for hours and hours a day. Now, of course, when you're a kid, you think you don't have the time. When you actually do, it's just kind of funny. Now that the roles are reversed, I wish I could spend a lot more time than I get to at these days.
Yeah, absolutely. Are there any jobs or opportunities you haven't done yet that you would like to do someday?
That's a really interesting question. So in addition to being a musician and a teacher, I'm also an author. I wrote a book a number of years ago titled Teaching Happiness and Innovation. And out of that, I actually got the idea to lead a creativity retreat in Ireland, where 3 of my grandparents came from. It was kind of an economically depressed area in recent years, since the economic downturn in 2008. So I got the idea that it would be really cool to come up with a magnet that would draw American tourists to this rugged, remote corner of Ireland, and maybe this retreat could be part of that process. So I think eventually down the road, I would like to do retreats, workshops, camps that deal with fiddle music, maybe bringing Americans over to Ireland and doing an Irish music tour, something along those lines, doing fiddle camps and workshops in the United States where I live, both in person and remotely. And then just as an artist, with with the opportunity to record music today and with the acceptance of blending lots of different genres and the fact that people are into listening to all different types of music, it's there are no walls anymore when it comes to making music. So as an artist, it's very exciting about what the future might hold as well. So yeah, there are lots of possibilities for the future.
Yes, of course. Where do you see yourself 20 years from now?
Oh man, 20 years from now, well, hopefully still walking around. This is actually one of my fears, is that when I'm in my 60s, 70s, and beyond, that I may start to lose some of my dexterity with my fingers. Of course, if you play violin or the fiddle, your fingers and your hands and your arms are really, really, really important. So hopefully I'll still be healthy. I think that if objects at rest tend to stay at rest, and objects in motion tend to stay in motion. So that's one of my biggest motivations for trying to play as often as I can, just to make sure that everything keeps moving. Because as a musician, I would hate to lose this ability that I have with the instrument. But then, just broadly speaking, beyond that, it's really exciting, this space of teaching online fiddle, because I've had students and I've talked to people literally all over the world. And that's really exciting to me, to take people who are at the beginning stages of playing violin or fiddle, or they've been doing it for a long time, or they used to play and they gave it up for some reason and want to come back to it, to help people overcome their challenges so that they are more confident with their tone and they can get out and play in public. And if their neighbor finds out that they play fiddle, they don't have to try to run away from it. They can actually embrace it and say, oh yeah, but you come over, I'll play a few tunes. If I can help people get to that point, and as many people as possible between now and over the next 20 years, that would be a great feeling, for sure.
If your life was a meal, what kind of meal would it be?
If my life was a mule?
A meal.
Oh, a meal. Okay. Like, okay. I'm getting a little lost in translation. I'm sorry here.
That's all right.
If my life was a meal, what kind of meal would it be? Oh my gosh. That is a really interesting question. I'm not sure I've ever thought about that. Maybe some kind of buffet at a Chinese restaurant or something like that. It just has lots of different varieties, lots of different flavors. Maybe a Thanksgiving meal. Of course, here in the United States, Thanksgiving is one of our biggest holidays, and you have all different types of dishes there. Turkey and salad and like sweet potatoes and pies and all this amazing stuff. I think I would like for my a meal that represents my life to be as diverse and inclusive and interesting and colorful and flavorful as possible.
Yes, I can see that. What was the largest thing you have ever seen?
The largest thing I've ever seen? I don't know. Like in person, the largest thing I've ever seen. I mean, maybe a skyscraper, maybe a building in New York, maybe just an expanse, one thing that comes to mind for me, of just a natural, something that's out there in nature that's large, is this beach at Carrickfinn in Ireland. It's right there on the Donegal coast. That's a rather large thing. I don't know if the sky, space. It's an interesting question. I'm not sure exactly how to answer it, but those are some responses anyway.
Yeah. Absolutely. Would you rather speak all languages or talk to animals?
Would I rather speak all languages or talk to animals? That's a really interesting question. Maybe speak all languages, because I think that would just give you the opportunity to connect with people all over the world. And I guess if you could speak all languages, then maybe that includes all animal languages as well. So that might be the winner.
Yeah, I can see that. Where was the furthest you traveled to from where you're originally from?
The furthest I've traveled to. So I'm originally from North Carolina. I'd say in the United States, the furthest I've traveled to would be out to Seattle in the Northwest, or maybe San Francisco in California. I'm not sure which technically would be further west of the other. To the east, of course, I've been to Ireland several times. We're really fortunate that one of my grandparents' homes is still in the family, so we can go over and visit there. Italy, I think, is the furthest east, maybe. Yeah, that's probably the furthest east. So, but the west coast of the U.S. and somewhere around Rome or so. That's probably the furthest east I've been.
Nice, nice. Have you met anyone famous?
Have I met anyone famous? Well, I mean, back in the old days, I was in a band called Weekend Excursion, and we played primarily around the southeastern United States, but we did do a bit of touring around the country. And I would say, to use a baseball analogy, we got to the AAA level, which is right below the major leagues of baseball. So we were really close to kind of cracking through and having a career in music, but it never really totally panned out. But recently, actually, we had an appearance on CNN on the New Year's Eve show, and as it turns out that one of our fans from years and years ago is the current producer of that program, the CNN New Year's Live with Anderson Cooper, and we had the opportunity to appear on that show. So we were there. We were in the studio, the CNN studios. We were mingling with some of the behind the scenes folks. We saw these pictures from famous folks who've come through. So that might be my vicarious my vicarious historical contact with folks. That was definitely, as a musician, that was my highlight in my career, to appear on that show.
Wow, impressive.
Yeah, it was cool. It was very cool.
Yes, it sure was. Have you heard of a drink called Banana Fruche?
Banana Fruche. I don't think I have.
That's all right. That's what they all say.
Sounds delicious, though.
It does, yeah. Do you know a guy named Joe?
A guy named Joe? Yeah, I know some guys named Joe. I have a son named Joe.
Cool.
And as far as I know, he does not like that banana drink, but I'll ask him. All
right, that's cool. What's the most comfortable piece of clothing that you own?
The most comfortable piece of clothing that I own? I'm really big on comfort, so I just I like wearing T-shirts, old faded, comfortable T-shirts, and athletic shorts and flip-flops. And I try to wear that as often as I can, whether it's in the summer, fall, spring. Probably not so much in the winter. Got a really nice sweatshirt that's a hooded sweatshirt. Yeah. I'm pretty simple when it comes to my wardrobe, and if it's not comfortable, it's not going on my body.
Fair enough. If you could choose between scuba diving, bungee jumping, or skydiving, which one would you choose?
So it's bungee jumping, skydiving, and what was the other one? Oh, scuba, bungee.
Yeah, bungee jumping, skydiving, bungee jumping.
Okay, I have no interest whatsoever in doing skydiving. Probably not so much interest in bungee either. I'll go with scuba. I've never done scuba diving. I've done snorkeling before in the Florida Keys years and years ago with my Boy Scout troop, and that was really, really cool. Talk about just a variety of colors. That was absolutely gorgeous. So I know scuba takes a little bit more training, but I'd probably go for that. Seems a little safer to me.
Yeah, I agree. What would be the first thing you'd do if you found out you won the lottery?
And the first thing I'd do if I found out I won the lottery, well, probably shore up my savings a little bit. So it'd be boring. I mean, I would not go crazy buying a whole lot of stuff, I don't think. But probably take care of some projects around the house. I would spend a lot more time making music. I could tell you that. I would probably make some changes in my life, and I would, if I didn't have to rely on income as much, the opportunity to help more people with music and to perform as often as possible, those would definitely be priorities.
All right then. Very good. How did you spend your last birthday?
Oh my gosh, my last birthday, January the 1st of this past year. Well, I think it was kind of boring. A day like any other day. I'm pretty sure it was a weekday. I had, I taught, I coached. I also coached basketball in the winter, which is a lot of fun, working with kids. So I probably did that, and I think we just had a very simple birthday dinner that night. Nothing crazy.
Fair enough. Would you rather To be able to breathe underwater or have the agility of a cat?
I think the agility of a cat would be really, really, really cool because they could do some of the most amazing things and not get hurt. I don't know how they do it. Falling out of trees and things like that. And the older I get, the more agile and nimble I wish I were. You get to the age of 40 and things start falling apart. So I think having a cat's ability would definitely be cool.
Yes, it sure will be. What kind of music do you often listen to?
Well, so I like listening to a variety of different genres of music. Sometimes I just like listening to just Zen, peaceful, Buddhist instrumental types of channels on Spotify or YouTube or something. As far as the music that I play, I often play a lot of old-time American fiddle tunes, Irish fiddle tunes, also a little bit of classical here and there. But, of course, I listen to whatever my kids are listening to a lot of the time, too. That their jukebox kind of takes over.
Yeah, indeed. If you could travel back in time, what decade would you want to live in?
Oh, interesting. If I could travel back in time, what decade would I want to live in? Well, I don't know exactly how to answer that question, except maybe the 1920s, but before the Great Depression hit. It'd be kind of cool to see what the Roaring '20s were all about. I mean, I tend to think that for all the problems that we have in the modern world, living right here, right now is pretty cool. I mean, when you think about the technology that we have and heating and air conditioning and travel, I'm here in Richmond, Virginia, but if I wanted to, in just a matter of hours, I could be with you over in the UK. And that has not been the case until fairly recently. So as far as living in another decade, I don't think I'd want to live in another decade, but traveling back to visit the Roaring '20s would be interesting, just to live it for a while.
Yeah, that certainly would be interesting. What's the craziest thing you have ever done?
Oh, man. Well, I think the older you get, the more you realize just how fortunate you are to still be alive. Because, I mean, I'm sure that many of us when we were kids did some really stupid things. And from time to time, I think back to just some reckless things, like jumping off of rocks or things, things that now I would probably break a leg. If you're 12 or 13, it's no big deal. But I'm sure that there were some pretty reckless things that I shouldn't have done. Driving, we spend so much time on the road. I feel like I'm just really fortunate. I'm knocking on wood right now. I'm knocking on everything. That I haven't been in a serious accident. But driving late at night when you're exhausted and your eyes start to droop. I've done that lots of times in my life, and I'm just fortunate that it's all turned out well.
Yeah, absolutely. What should they teach in high school but they don't?
What should they teach in high school? Well, so this was actually one of the main things that I talked about in my book that I discussed earlier, Teaching Happiness and Innovation, because I realized that in a way schools were failing kids because we weren't teaching these habits that could lead to less stress and more happiness in life. So I think that teaching positive psychology, teaching the science of happiness would really benefit many kids. And it would help them not only when they're kids, but as they're getting into their 20s, 30s, 40s, and beyond, just navigating the challenges of life.
Yeah, so true. And what else in your book have you also covered?
What else have I covered?
Yeah, yes, your book. You've written.
Oh, yes. Okay, well, so I mean, basically the book was all about ways that we can teach kids these habits that will make them less stressed out and happier and more successful in school and in life. And when we do that, we actually make ourselves happier and less stressed at the same time. So if you focus on developing a growth mindset, for example, or trying to incorporate more creativity into your life, trying to spend as much time as possible being grateful, things like this, then you'll get less bogged down by all the minutiae that are happening, that are going to continue to happen, and you'll start to develop these habits that will make you more resilient and make it more possible for you to get through the challenges that you face.
Yes, indeed. What was the longest line you have ever waited in?
The longest line I've ever waited in? Oh my gosh. Well, there may be longer lines than this, but what comes to mind immediately is just going through customs, going in and out of the U.S. or maybe waiting to go into Ireland at some point. I think there are some really long lines.
Yeah.
An airport line is probably the longest line that I can remember.
Yes, I definitely agree. Been there, done that. If you're going on a road trip, what 2 items do you make sure to bring with you?
Well, I try to bring my fiddle with me whenever I can. I mean, I would have to bring the phone. I mean, I'm kind of counting that as a necessity, just in the modern age. But I want to bring my fiddle, and I'll also want to bring a good book to read. Those would be 2 very important items.
Yes, absolutely. Very important indeed. What hobby would you get into if time and money weren't an issue?
Well, I love to play golf, and I don't have the time for it. And growing up, I used to play a lot of golf in public courses. I've never been much of a private course type of player, partially because I could never afford it. But if I had plenty of time and plenty of money, I would want to spend a ton of time playing golf all over the world. That'd be tremendous.
Yes, I can see it now. If you could watch one movie again for the first time, what movie would that be?
Oh man, I don't know. Maybe one of the Star Wars movies or Lord of the Rings. I just remember when Lord of the Rings came out. I guess it's over 20 years ago now. Just how amazing that was, especially the natural beauty of New Zealand where it was filmed. So to see that again and to experience beginner's mind watching Lord of the Rings, I think that'd be really cool.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. What could you give a 40-minute presentation on without any preparation?
Maybe parenting, because with 5 kids and many, many, many years of navigating that journey, there are probably a lot of stories to tell.
Yeah, that's true. What place or activity do you find relaxing?
Well, playing music, absolutely. And this is one of the biggest reasons why I'm so interested in helping adults who are beginning, returning, and intermediate violin and fiddle players, because the instrument is so challenging. It's, playing a musical instrument is hard to begin with, but playing a stringed instrument such as the violin is just really hard. But if you're able to persevere, if you're able to find a good mentor, if you're able to get into a community of supportive individuals who are sharing the journey with you, then the fiddle can become, instead of a source of stress, it could become a source of joy and something that can help you just have something to look forward to and something to get excited about, to connect with other people, to form new relationships or to strengthen existing ones. Playing a musical instrument is one of the best things you can do for your brain, especially as you age. It can lower your stress, can help you sleep better, can lower your blood pressure. If you get into something like this that just requires total focus, then that's what our brains need. We're so distracted by a million different things. To be able to have something that sucks your entire attention into one endeavor, that's such a beautiful thing. And playing a musical instrument, it can absolutely be that for people. So that's something I would definitely want to do.
Fair enough, fair enough. If you had a song for every time you entered the room, what song would that be?
Probably something funny, probably. I don't know. I can't think of anything off the top of my head, but something lighthearted. Maybe the Benny Hill theme music, from the Benny Hill show from years and years ago. Something like that. Or a really, really catchy fiddle tune, maybe.
Yeah, of course. What habit do you find yourself doing without thinking about it?
What habit do I find myself doing? Well, again, just to connect it to music, I just find myself all the time singing or humming a tune or just tapping out a rhythm with my toes or with my fingertips, playing something on my kneecap. if I'm sitting in traffic or in line at the doctor's office or something like that. I think that music is just such a part of me. It's always there, waiting to come out. So I think that's definitely a habit that I just seep into without even thinking about it.
Fair enough. I could relate at some point, but yeah, I agree. What natural landmark would you like to see someday?
Grand Canyon. We were going to see the Grand Canyon out west here in the United States years and years ago on a trip across the country, and our vehicle broke down in Boise, Idaho. We were stuck there for a week, and when the car was finally repaired, we had to drive in 2 days' time all the way across the U.S. so we could get back to work. So we missed out on seeing the Grand Canyon. So that's definitely on my list.
All right, sounds great. And that is all we have for this episode. It's great having you on, Mike, talking about your works as an online fiddle instructor, your inspirations for music, and everything else. It's been great.
Yeah, well, thank you. I think I've probably learned a few things about myself that I didn't know. These are some fascinating questions. So it's been a pleasure. It's been fun.
It sure has been. And until next time, stay tuned for more.